So I want to talk about Jalen Hurts, and I want to talk about quarterback contracts and this age that we're living in. So the news is Jalen Hurts signed his deal, okay? This according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. It's a 4-year deal worth $6.02 million that includes a $1.94 million signing bonus. Interesting to note, Hurts received workout bonuses in year 3 of $75,000 and year 4 of $100,000, similar to Drew Lock, who was picked 11 spots before him, a quarterback premium. He is represented by Nicole Lynn. Nicole Lynn is wife to Gabe Lynn, former safety and Jinx standout at Oklahoma. Gabe Lynn is coaching DBs down at Houston Baptist. And meanwhile, his wife is making waves. Short story, I lived in the same apartment complex as Gabe when I was in grad school at OU. And at the time, we both were seeing women that were going to law school. And I would ask him, what's yours gonna do? I think she wants to rep athletes. Yeah, man, and then some. Because after this kind of a win for her, it's gonna be tremendous in that she had a quarterback that was drafted in the second round who had no business being drafted in the second round. I need to try it out again. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I think he was great, put in a great quarterback system, and I think he had great help around him. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a pretty good quarterback. I don't take him in the second round. I don't think that he's going to make him look great in Philly. He's welcome to go out there and show everybody he's worth the $6.02 million he's going to get paid over the next 4 years. But that's tremendously good money in this economy. Meanwhile, the conversations that we're having about Pat Mahomes and how he might be underpaid by the time his deal ends, Jalen Hurts is being overpaid. I said it. I'm not going to take it back. I really don't. I applaud Nicole for getting this deal done. But I wouldn't pay him this money. Then I wouldn't have drafted him in the second round to pay him that slotted value either. And then you get workout bonuses as a quarterback, which has always just been tremendous to me in that we don't expect quarterbacks to work out. Not really. Anybody who's ever been in a strength and conditioning room knows that the quarterbacks get off easy. They don't really do arm exercises. They don't really bench. They kind of sort of squat because everybody has to squat. They kind of sort of power clean because everybody got a power clean. But, that ain't what you're asking to do. It's like, no, they need their range of motion and their flexibility. Yeah, well, we're over here dying because I don't need my range of motion and my flexibility. Okay. Between quarterbacks and the cross-country kids, nobody works less among those two. Meanwhile, we got men's soccer players who are squatting 405 in the hole. Talking about butt to calves. We got sprinters like myself over here pushing up 260 off our chest and coaches being like grunted out. I'm like, what? Man, I'm looking over here at Paul and David and they're not doing anything. Yes. Paul and David. I'm talking about both of you. They know what time it was. So this dude getting workout bonuses for doing something he would do anyway, showing up after games are over to work out with Benny Wiley. One thing about that, Wiley wanted him in that room. Wiley allowed him in that room. You know how many strength and conditioning coaches would have told me to get my behind up out of their strength and conditioning facility and get my rest? Because rest is a part of the program. Meanwhile, he getting to work out and putting it on tape. Coffee bean stuff, huh? Showing up like Steve Jobs in the post game. Okay. All right. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it stretches out. But it's also the rare deal that is getting done during the pandemic. That's also been pretty interesting, right? Because we're just now seeing first rounders get signed. Guys like AJ Terrell out of Clemson signed a 4-year, fully guaranteed deal worth $14.3 million. And he's getting a $7.96 million in signing bonus money. Good money if you can get it. Isaiah Simmons signed his 4-year, fully guaranteed deal worth $20.66 million. Signing bonus of $12.58 million. Dudes is finally getting this money, finally getting paid, and we're wondering why so many players are like, nah, I want to be able to make money in college. Why can't I make some of that money in college? There was probably not a more marketable non-quarterback in 2019 than Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons probably could have cleared $2 million in endorsements last year just by repping somebody's product alone because he is a super freak of a human being. Just that hybrid linebacker safety type that everybody would want to give a Powerade deal. That'd be like, yo, Red Bull gave him wings. You don't think he wants to be out there putting that on the Instagrams? I think he would want to be out there putting that on the Instagrams. I'd also add in here that Michael Bennett's retirement from the NFL is noteworthy for me for two reasons. The first is Michael Bennett is a 3-time Pro Bowler and won 3 Super Bowls, right? Notably with the New England Patriots. He's also been working on a book that he's called Things That Make White People Uncomfortable and trying to make that into a scripted television show. But it is the rare NFL player who retires to the sound of a Toni Morrison quote and having to do with freedom. It is one thing to be made free. It's another thing to take ownership of that freedom. Yo, not everybody out there just going, I'm going to go ahead and quote one of the greatest black writers of all time on my way out the door of the NFL. And Michael Bennett has also not been shy about his need to help lead social justice in the United States. He would say not everyone can be Colin Kaepernick or Maya Moore. Kaepernick, for reasons that you know, Maya Moore actually quit her job for the year so she could help get a man out of prison to prove his innocence. Yo, Jonathan Irons did 22 years in prison for something he didn't do. And Maya Moore found out about that cause and said, you know, I'm going to be about this work. And for her, that's a tremendous move because women's basketball players play year round, especially one as good as she is. She's top 5 athlete all time. She gave up playing in Europe and playing in the WNBA this year, even before the virus began, so that she could help get Jonathan Irons out of prison. Back to Bennett, he said, football means so much to me, but some of the things that I'm able to do now mean a little bit more. I'm with that. So at a time when we're watching guys like Jalen Hurts, Isaiah Simmons, AJ Terrell begin their journeys into the NFL, we're watching Michael Bennett exit his. I think all of these things are tremendous and things that we should take into account as we continue forward into what is going to be a wild fall for sports, even as there's not going to be any high school football in California. Mayberry, did you call Leo? Cool, thank you. I sent a simple question out on the Twitters, and I am blessed to have as many people respond to that tweet as I have, with over 140 responses, asking, who's the nicest professional athlete? I didn't put any qualifiers on this because I wanted to see just how far-ranging this was. And I put this on the Twitters because I read about how Steven Adams was dealing with the bubble on his birthday, which was yesterday. And he made a point of letting everyone know, look, this is not bad. We stay at a resort. The food's a little bit dry, but I get to go to the pool. And as he said, I get to have a feed and I get to play basketball and watch film. There's nothing here to be sad about. And if you know anything about Steven Adams' background, you can understand his is one of humble beginnings, where he is probably the least talented person in his family. But it's also wildly fun to hear him speak, but also tremendously filling to hear him speak. This is a man who wrote in his autobiography of Russell Westbrook one sentence. He's great, which I love because that's his man. But I got responses like Drew Brees. For those of you that don't know, Drew Brees has the Brees Dream Foundation, just one of Brees' many philanthropic acts in partnership with Operation Kids, helped to rebuild and restore parks, academic and athletic facilities, after-school programs, childcare, and more for the kids of New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina. In 2009, Brees visited Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp as part of a United Services Organization tour, USO. And in 2010, Brees helped raise awareness of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Of course, 2006, the year I graduated high school, he was Walter Payton Man of the Year. I got another response, which was Jimmy Johnson, for which I will throw it to team owner, guy he works for, Rick Hendrick at the time, who said, I think when you can do it and do it right and win like he did and set records that probably no one will ever break and nobody can say anything bad about Jimmy Johnson on the track, off the track. I mean, I think sometimes people just didn't respect him because he was too perfect. You know, that he didn't have the big edge, but he could win and do it like that and be a gentleman and race people clean and never had any problems. This is a man who was in Jeff Gordon's shadow for so long, and both of these men were known as enunciators in the sport of NASCAR. Jimmy Johnson, also one of those men who has stood with and for Bubba Wallace during his time of turmoil on the circuit. Another guy that was brought up many times over was Larry Fitzgerald, and I love this story that I read in the Wall Street Journal about Larry Fitzgerald. This is told by Will Blackman, who played corner for Washington. Said he's asking about your family. This is at the line of scrimmage, at the snap. And then he's trying to bomb you for 70 yards right after. Falcons cornerback Desmond Trufant was thrown off because he said he played against my brothers for years and he knew my whole family. So he asked about that. Again, at the line of scrimmage before the snap. There was all this casual talk. I was thrown off. I'm trying to focus. And he's being a really good dude. And there were a number of other folks that popped up. Folks like Wayne Gretzky and Wayman Tisdale. I got some cheeky responses like hockey players, right? Any hockey player. And what I found is two things. One, we really do know these people by their philanthropic acts, and we value them for them. I mean, going back to Breeze again, millions of dollars in COVID-19 relief to his community. And we know them for our personal interactions. Not too long ago, Jermaine Gresham was able to help a lady at an airport. She took a photo with him not knowing it was Jermaine Gresham. Just this great big man who had given her some help. And that story made the rounds. But now I want to throw it to Jeff Pearlman, who wrote this fascinating biography about Brett Favre, a man whose stories I know from growing up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where my mother is an alumna and where he played quarterback in the early 90s when I was a kid. Brett Favre has a Superman shield tattooed on his left bicep. He has hairy arms and crooked knees. Brett Favre is a lousy texter. His grammar is awful. He's probably the worst tipper known to humanity. It's not because he's overwhelmingly cheap. He just doesn't like carrying money. Brett Favre is a dancer, and even worse, basketball player. Brett Favre used to know all the words to Rapper's Delight, the 14-minute, 35-second version. One of his favorite lines is, "If the chicken had lips, it'd whistle." He also used to say someone was sweating like Shaq at the line. His favorite hat color was for many years red, now it's beige. His favorite beer was Miller Lite. His favorite dip was Copenhagen. He likes eating crushed pineapple from a can. Brett Favre is mediocre with names, fantastic with nicknames. Mark Chmura was Chewy. Kerry Brabham was Catfish. Patrick Ivey was Poison. For nearly a year, he thought Rob Davis, the Packers long snapper, was named Ron. One day, he wondered why Ron Davis never responded when he asked him a question. Because a teammate told him, "You're saying the wrong effing name." Brett Favre is missing 30 inches of his small intestine. It's the byproduct of a car accident that happened before his senior year of college. And as a result, he produces the worst smelling gas in the history of civilization. The scent has been described as skunk, crushed worm, rotten milk mixed with squid, and best of all, death. Brett Favre loved Leroy Butler, tolerated Sterling Sharp, had little use for Aaron Rodgers. His all-time favorite coach is Mike Holmgren. His all-time least favorite coach is Brad Childress. He threw the football so insanely hard that Derek Mays, a Packers wide receiver, has mangled pieces of flesh, barbed wire doubling as fingers. Can't even tell you how many he broke, Mays said. Favre used to be able to drive a golf ball in excess of 300 yards. His short game was awful. He once went hunting and finished off a deer that refused to die by submerging Bambi's head in a pond. These are the kinds of things a biographer knows because when you speak with enough people, in this case 573, you learn stuff. I can't tell you every mail-in address, or I can tell you, every mail-in address from Brett Favre's life. I can tell you what the bushes outside his Green Bay house smell like. I can tell you how he spit, what cars he drove, what he ordered the first time he visited Boston. There are facts upon facts upon facts. They are interesting. They are intriguing. They mean little. There's a story that really does speak to just what Brett Favre was capable of. Two, in fact. One is a little boy that he taught to say hi to him by saying, all you got to do is raise that middle finger every time you see me, and I'll know that that's our secret high sign. To which I smile, I giggle. And then there's the story about a little boy from Wisconsin, whose name was Anderson, who in February 2006 was diagnosed with epidemioma, a rare tumor of the brain and spinal cord. The quarterback wrote the child a letter which, while cherished in the Anderson household, was merely one of hundreds of notes Favre penned to the ill and infirm. I never saw Brett not respond to a person in need, said David Thomason, a man who handled the quarterback's fan mail. He was amazing when it came to that. As the years passed and his health worsened, the one thing Anderson clung to was his football hero. By the time he was 5, he was not doing well. Anderson was bedridden. He couldn't move his arms. He couldn't speak. He was on a ventilator. He couldn't hold up his head. Thomason was updated on Anderson's condition and reminded Favre that there was a boy in Wisconsin who needed him. One day, out of the blue, Michelle was told that the quarterback, who was a Viking then, and his wife would fly from Minnesota to visit their home. Michelle is Anderson's mom. The year was 2010. The doorbell rings, and there's this big guy, big smile on his face. When Anderson saw Favre, he excitedly lifted his right leg in the air, which he previously could not do without pain. Brett Favre told him to put his leg down and sat with him for the better part of the day, talking with him, hugging him, letting him know how much he was loved, and that Favre appreciated him being allowed into his room. Later that season, it was brought up to him that Anderson was in a very bad way, and Anderson had sent him this towel with the number 4 on it. It's his favorite towel. In his final game with the Vikings, after a 40-14 loss, Brett was asked by a reporter, this might be a dumb question, but what's that backward number 4 written on your towel for? And Brett Favre, being Brett Favre, said it's none of your business. But I love that story because it does humanize our heroes that do these things that we wonder about, that we so would enjoy doing. The reasons that we love sports, the reasons that we love athletes, the reasons that we go a little too far in our deification of them. All this to say there are tremendously kind people among us who are doing the best that they can.